Welcome to tonight's show. We have a great show tonight. It's going to be a little bit different than some of the other shows that we've done. Tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a little bit of music theory, the idea or the starting points of scales, notes, and eventually we're going to get into some chords. All right, now don't go away. Don't go and grab the remote control and shut me off right away. Give it a few minutes because it's pretty fascinating. And if you're a guitarist or a musician that plays another instrument, you're gonna find how this is gonna relate to everything that you do. So the first thing we're gonna do is talk a little bit about sounds. Most people describe a sound that somebody plays on an instrument, whether it's the guitar or a piano or a horn, or if you sing a note, as a note. But the correct term would be a pitch or a tone. That's the standard musical college terms for these sounds would be a tone or a pitch. Pitch basically means how high or low something sounds. But in modern day music and street music and just everything except very strict classical music, we say a note. If you write a sound on a piece of music paper, it's called a note. Okay, you could also call it a pitch, but if it's not written down, you're just discussing it with somebody, basically it would be called a pitch or a tone. But everybody says note. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the musical alphabet. The musical alphabet is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we have 7 letter names or 7 notes or 7 pitches. That have designated certain letter names from the alphabet, A through G. Now after G, the next higher pitch, or the next higher note after G would be A again. Now it's not the same A as we started on, it's one cycle or 8 notes higher, and that would be a higher A. Now since it's 8 notes in music, we give that term, that interval, that space of 8 called an octave, and it's always 8. If we started on A, we went up to the next A, we'd find it's 8 notes altogether. If I started on B, went alphabetically up from B, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. 8 notes again. Doesn't matter what note you start on. If you go 8 higher, it's the next octave. Now if you continue 8 more, it would be a second octave. So from the first note, from the first A to the next A is 1 octave. Then from that middle A to the higher A would be 2 octaves. The guitar, for instance, starts on a low open E, and the guitar is about 2.5, almost 3.5, almost 4 octaves high, the space of the notes on the guitar. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is relate everything that we're talking about eventually with the guitar. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at these 7 notes on a piano or a keyboard. A keyboard is good to do a lot of music theory on and chord work on because it's very visual. You can see the notes. You can see exactly what's happening. The next best would be the guitar. You can see a little bit better on the guitar. But other instruments, you run into problems because you can't see the note where we're playing them. If you're playing a horn or whatever, you just have a finger in that you're going by. But when we look at a piano, we can clearly see the relationships to these notes from one note to the next. And that's what we want to really look at today. And they're related to the guitar. So the first note that you see, generally most people learn on a keyboard is C or middle C. Now C is going to be the first white key before the 2 black keys. If you look at the keyboard, you have 2 black keys, then you have a space, then you have 3 more black keys, then you have a space, then you have 2 more black keys. Those spaces are very important. So if you, on your keyboard, you look at my keyboard here, and you see the 2 black keys, the first white key before those is C. And if you look further down the keyboard, you see there's 2 more black keys. The first white key before that, again, is C. Now that's the next octave. Okay, so if we start on that C and stick with just the white keys, we go C, D is the next key, then E, then F, then G, then A, then B, and again, we're right back to C again. Now what I did is I played all of those white keys. Now when you do that on a piano from C to C, that becomes a scale. A scale is an arrangement of notes. Okay, we're going to learn soon an arrangement of whole steps and half steps, a certain arrangement. And most people know a major scale. You learned it when you were a kid. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's your major scale. And if I play it on the piano, starting from C, there's your C major scale. All the white keys, no black keys. Now, when I play that scale, if you notice, between the first two notes, the C and the D, we got that black key in between. Now, that black key could be a sharp or a flat. Okay, we'll get to that soon. All right, so C to D, you have that note in between. So between C and D, we call that a space of a whole step or an interval of 1. Okay, because you have C, and then if you play that note in between, that would be a half step. Then from that note in between to the D is another half step. So you have 2 half steps. So it's a whole step from C to D. So basically a good rule of thumb in music is if you play from one note alphabetically to the next and you have a note in between, on the guitar you'd have a fret in between, or on the piano you have that black key. Generally it's a black key in between. Then it's a whole step between those 2 keys. So C to D is said to be a whole step. Now if we continue from D to E, yeah, it's another whole step. You see, you have that black key in there. So we have 2 whole steps, C to D, then D to E is a whole step. Now we go to E to F. Now look, E to F. There's no black key in between E and F. So that's a half step automatically. Okay, F to G, there you have that black key again in between. So that's a whole step again. G to A, again, you have the black key in between, so G to A is a whole step. A to B, again, there we have that black key in between, so A to B is a whole step. Then B to C, the last 2 notes of that scale, no black key there, so B to C is a half step. So now when we take a look at this C major scale, when we play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, we notice that there's 2 places that you have a half step. Between the 3rd and 4th note, which is E to F, and between the 7th and 8th note, which is B to C, those are half steps because there's no black key in between them. Okay, now it's very important to memorize that. If you go alphabetically in music, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whenever you go between B and C and E and F is a half step, automatically. Everything else is a whole step. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F, half. Very important. And one of the reasons why I'm telling you guys all this stuff, because when we play the guitar, it's going to relate to everything you do. Even if you don't even know how to read music, you'll not only be able to find the names of all the notes on all of the strings by knowing this, but it helps with your chords. You'll be able to, know the names of the chords with a little bit of study. You can figure them out. Students always come to me, well, I know the bar chords, I know these chords, but I can't remember the names of them. How do I figure it out? Well, this is how you do it, okay? By getting a good basic understanding of your major scale and music in general. So once again, let's review. Go alphabetically between any 2 notes. It's a whole step, except B to C and E to F. In music, the technical term for that would be a natural half step. B to C and E to F are natural half steps. The reason why they call them natural half steps is both notes are natural. They're playing the notes. They're neither sharp or flat. And it's the only 2 places in music where you can have a half step with 2 natural notes, B to C and E to F. Any other place we have to use either a sharp or a flat to produce a half step. Okay, so now what we want to do is look at that major scale whole step between the first 2 notes, whole step between the next 2 notes, half step, whole step between the 4th and 5th note, whole step between the 5th and 6th note, whole step between the 6th and 7th note, and then a half step between the 7th and 8th. That pattern, whole step, half, whole step, half step, is what we call a major scale pattern. That's all that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti sound is. That major scale sound is that arrangement of whole steps and half steps. I'm Fred Chrisson. This is the show for all of you guitarists that stay up to the wee hours of the morning.